7:30 on a Thursday morning, it's The Breakfast Show. Here's the latest from Kaduta Massey.
Morning, George. The usual.
All this healthy eating nonsense. You think the whole country's going mad? All jogging and fresh vegetables. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Got enough red meat in your diet, won't go far wrong. I never eat any real fattening food like bread and potatoes. And anyway, you can't beat a good traditional English breakfast. It's what made this country great, isn't it?
This is New Covent Garden, one of the busiest places in Britain at this time in the morning. Delicious fresh fruit and vegetables are brought in here from all over the country. This programme is about eating well and about living well. What you eat affects the whole quality of your life. No food in itself is bad for you. It's the amount you eat of some kinds of food that may be wrong. Healthy eating is a matter of balance. It doesn't mean doing without what you like best. In fact, balancing your diet provides the perfect opportunity to make your food tastier and more interesting. It's a question of gradually changing towards a better, healthier way of life. Do things in stages. It's not as difficult as you think to change the habits of you and your family, and it is worth it. We're not talking about a diet for the Daley Thompsons of this world, but what ordinary people can do to get more out of life. What should most of us be doing to get into better shape? Later on, we'll be finding the answers to that question by talking to health and nutrition experts. Dr. Gillian Rice of Woman magazine.
I think people have got to try and look at exercise positively and not see it as a burden.
Tesco's Head of Product and Consumer Services, Kerry Dennis.
We feel that the most important thing is whether or not you eat a healthy diet overall.
Professor John Catford of Heartbeat Wales.
Health is about living for life, and a healthy lifestyle makes you feel good and look good.
And Joy Davis, Woman's Cookery Editor.
Take it gradually. Don't worry about it. Don't become paranoid, because food is there to be enjoyed.
And we'll also be finding out what a number of very different people have been doing to develop a taste for healthy living. But first, we're going to go up to Liverpool to meet Debbie.
I'm lucky to be living so close to Sefton Park. It makes it that bit easier to get up in the morning for a run. I suppose I go for a run about 3 or 4 times a week, though I tend to stay in bed if the weather looks really bad. I haven't done any exercise since I left school. The strange thing is that when I do manage to drag myself out of bed, once I get my breath back, I feel brilliant, and it puts me in a better mood for the whole day.
Good morning, Mrs. Wilkins.
I used to get out of breath just climbing the stairs, and my mum said to me, "You really should give up smoking." And then I was worried that I would start eating more and, putting on weight. So I thought I'd better find out a bit more about what I was eating. It's funny, but I only drink skim milk these days, and the cat won't touch it, so I have to keep some ordinary milk in for him. He probably thinks the other stuff's too healthy. I try and have a fairly balanced diet, though I still reckon I eat more than I should. Most of my food is healthier than it was. For breakfast, I usually have just a cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal. My younger sister Sharon still smokes. She's slimmer than me, but that's because she hardly eats anything. She's always on some crash diet or other. I always say it can't be doing her any good, but she doesn't take any notice of me. Mind you, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I eat too many sweet things and I have a running battle with myself over chocolate. Sometimes I can go days without any, and then I'll get a real craving, especially when I'm at work.
Excuse me, Debbie. Do you think I could have 3 copies of this for a meeting this afternoon?
Of course, everything's such a rush at work. Sometimes I don't even get out of the office at all for lunch. I try and take some fruit in with me when I remember, and then I just grab a sandwich or something. I try and cook myself a proper meal in the evenings, and sometimes I have a few friends round to eat. Before, I always used to survive on takeaways. It was just laziness, really. I eat a lot more chicken now than I used to, and it works out cheaper too. Since I started reading about healthy food in magazines, I find that I experiment a lot more with my cooking.
And cut it into 3 long strips. Got this really neat figure.
I go out clubbing Friday or Saturday. Sometimes I just stay in and watch telly. Quite often I end up down the pub. I still reckon I drink too much, but it's social really. And at least I haven't started smoking again. I still need to watch my weight, but I've actually lost a bit since I gave up smoking, and I feel so much better for it in general.
Debbie is like many of us, trying hard to improve her lifestyle, with the occasional lapses. But she seems to be enjoying both the healthier lifestyle and the lapses. Gillian, one of the things that concerned Debbie about her diet was her weight. But she does realise that there's a difference between going on a diet and eating healthily.
Yes, that's right. If someone goes on a very strict diet, they could accidentally cut out on important vitamins and minerals, and almost certainly they won't be getting a healthy balance of proteins, fats and carbohydrate. So although they might lose weight, they won't be eating healthily. Whereas on the other hand, if you start to eat in a more healthy way, although it's not specifically meant to make you lose weight, one of the bonuses is that people often find that the pounds do drop off. And that's because you'll be eating less fat, so taking in fewer calories, and you'll be having more fibre and starchy foods, both of which, even in small quantities, will help to fill you up, so you should be able to reduce the total number of calories that you take in each day.
But what about Debbie's craving for chocolate? Will her sweet tooth ruin her efforts at eating healthily?
No, not necessarily. Our bodies certainly need glucose and other simple sugars, but we don't have to get those from sweets and chocolate and table sugar. We can also get them from fruit and vegetables or foods like bread and pasta, because those foods have carbohydrates in them and they'll be broken down inside the body and release the simple sugars that we need. And the reason I'd encourage Debbie to try and cut down on the chocolate is because really it's just providing her with empty calories. And that means that although the sugar in the chocolate will give her some of the energy she needs, it won't be giving her any fibre or vitamins or other important nutrients. Whereas there are plenty of other sweet foods like dried fruit or biscuits that have bran or rolled oats in them that will satisfy her sweet tooth, give her some of the energy she needs, but also provide a lot of the important ingredients that she needs for a healthy diet. And because sweets and chocolate also cause tooth decay, that's a second very important reason for trying to avoid them.
So would it be true to say that people like Debbie who don't have much time for lunch should avoid snacking on sweets and biscuits throughout the day to keep them going?
Yes, definitely, because if you're busy and active throughout the day, what you need is sustained energy so that you can concentrate and work efficiently right the way through to the end of the day. Now, a sugary snack will give a quick boost to your blood sugar level, but it also falls off again fairly swiftly. And that means that by the middle of the afternoon, because your snack won't have filled you up properly, you may well be feeling a bit tired and listless, not concentrating as well as you might. So to have a healthy snack lunch, what you need is a mixture of different foods, including some carbohydrate for energy and some fibre so that you'll feel properly full throughout the afternoon. Now, something like a granary bread or a wholemeal bread sandwich with some fruit after it would be fine. Or if you've got time for a quick meal, you could have, say, some pasta or perhaps a salad that has beans or lentils in it.
I think we all agree that food can influence your state of mind. But is it also true that exercise can have an influence on your mood?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I think that that's probably one of the most important effects of exercise. Now, unfortunately, lots of people avoid exercising because they think they're going to feel dreadful while they're doing it and then be shattered afterwards. Whereas, in fact, if you're exercising sensibly, you feel wonderful when you've finished. And as Debbie said, it actually puts her into a brilliant mood for the rest of the day. And certainly, people who can exercise in their lunch hour often find that they feel much calmer during the afternoon and can cope with all the stresses at work much better. And similarly, if you exercise in the evenings, that's a great way of unwinding at the end of the day, and it also helps you to sleep well. So I think people have got to try and look at exercise positively and not see it as a burden. They've got to choose an exercise that they like and that they can fit in fairly easily around the rest of their daily routine. And that way, if they enjoy their exercise and do it regularly, they're bound to feel not only physically better, but also mentally much healthier too.
Thank you, Gillian. So you see, exercise isn't just good for the body, it's good for the mind too. The Spencer family have been putting this into practice, and they're here to show you that you're never too young to start.
I first brought Alex here when she was about 4 months old, and she loved it from the very first time. It's a good way for us both to get some exercise together. They run special mother and duckling sessions here, and I try to bring Alex a couple of times a week. Swimming's a great form of exercise, and you feel so relaxed afterwards. It helps tone up your muscles, though obviously the amount of hard swimming I can do at the moment is restricted by having to keep an eye on Alex.
I like the slide as well, that's great, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, that's good. I'm off work at the moment to look after Alex, but I'll need to go back in a few months.
Yes, you'll find it more difficult to get exercise once you are back at work, you know.
Yeah, but I think I'll try and come swimming in the evenings. Or maybe at lunchtime if I can squeeze it in.
Before the baby was born, I came to prenatal classes at the pool. The nice thing is you don't feel such a lump when you get in the water, though I'm sure we still look pretty funny. When I was pregnant with Alex, I didn't consciously change my diet much. I just ate more. I always used to feel sick on the bus unless I had a big stodgy sandwich beforehand. My mother said that she always used to drink Guinness when she was pregnant with me, but I stopped drinking alcohol altogether. I'm still breastfeeding her twice a day, and I've started her on solid foods as well. Sorting out food for Alex has meant I've rediscovered what a delight pureed vegetables are, and they're so easy. Carrots is one of my favourites, and she likes it too. Before the baby, John used to go swimming with me in the evenings. Now he often has a game of squash after work.
So what's the score, 8-3? I find that squash is a good way to burn off all the excess energy and aggression that builds up when I'm sitting in an office all day. Keeps me fit, and compared with other sports, it doesn't take up too much time. And you certainly have to run around a fair bit too.
John's a vegetarian. He just decided a few years ago. It doesn't bother me. I still eat meat occasionally.
Hiya.
Hi. Good day.
Yeah, not bad. Where's my little monster then?
Hello then. Hello. Look, Daddy's come back. Daddy's come back to see his little girl. Hello.
Did you win?
Yeah, just about.
Are you hungry?
Yeah, I'm ravenous. I'm really famished.
We got the microwave about a year ago, and we thought it was a bit extravagant at the time. I don't think either of us realised how much we'd actually use it. We depend on it for vegetables. It means that you can cook them in their own juices, and it's easy to get them nice and crisp. Both John and I really hate tasteless, overcooked vegetables. It's also really good for fish. You can judge the cooking time exactly.
Health considerations play a big part in our diet, and it's not anything like as difficult as some people think. I'm a great believer in a high-fibre diet, so we have bran flakes or something similar, usually with some dried fruit instead of sugar, and loads of salad and fresh vegetables. And it's important to realise that vegetables and pulses contain a lot of proteins and minerals without all the problems of a high-fat diet. Listen, I don't think I'm going to be able to make the market tomorrow because I've got a business meeting that looks as though we're going to lunchtime.
Oh, don't worry. I think we've got enough vegetables.
Oh, this carrot's really sweet, isn't it? Mm.
I think our food is quite healthy. We don't find it a problem achieving a balance between John's vegetarian food and the times when I fancy some meat or fish. I don't want Alex to be overweight as a baby. I want her to have good eating habits from the start, and I hope that will help her be fit and healthy when she's older.
Tesco has tried to educate shoppers into better ways of eating, providing a wide range of well-labelled healthy products to choose from, making the healthy choices the easy choices. I've come here to Tesco's to talk to the company's head of product and consumer services, Kerry Dennis. Coming back to the couple we've just seen, Kerry, what about Claire's diet in pregnancy?
Not bad, actually. She and John are obviously interested in healthy eating and making sure their baby gets a good start. Claire was obviously trying while she was pregnant, although I must admit I noticed she had the occasional stodgy sandwich slipped in there. It is important to make sure you don't put on too much weight while you're pregnant.
So it's a myth that you eat for two during pregnancy, then?
Yes, it is. It's very easy to put on extra weight while you're pregnant, but it's not so easy to get rid of it again afterwards. Now, Claire was breastfeeding her baby, and it's all the more important for her to eat a healthy diet while she's doing that, because she's going to be using lots of energy, not just for feeding the baby, but for all the other things that she's going to have to do as well. When she comes to wean her off breast or bottle milk onto ordinary cow's milk, she must make sure that she uses whole milk rather than skim milk.
Oh, why's that?
Well, babies and young children need lots of energy to grow, and the fat in milk is really their best source of calories at that age. If they have skimmed milk, then they don't really get enough calories because there isn't enough fat in it.
And what about when you move on to solids?
Well, then they can eat the same as you. You can just mash up the food that you've cooked for yourself. It is also a time, though, when the sweet or salty tooth will develop. So I think it's a good idea to cut down on the salt and sugar that you use in your own cooking, because you can always add it at the table.
So what you're saying is, in fact, start good habits early.
Exactly. And we're also trying to help mums choose healthy foods when they do their shopping by putting nutrition information on all our products. So if you'd like to come and have a walk around the store, I'll show you what I mean.
Great, let's go.
You should eat plenty of fruit and vegetables as part of a healthy diet. When you have as many unusual varieties as this, and so many different colours and textures, there's really never any need to get bored.
No, it's true. They look so fresh.
And very colourful as well, so plenty of interest there.
They're gorgeous.
Now, I was explaining before that we put nutrition information on all our products, and this is what it looks like.
Oh, that looks quite complicated at first glance.
Yes, I think a lot of people are put off by figures, and that's why we've put this little sentence at the top, which explains the important points about the figures. So even if you don't understand those, you can learn something from reading the sentence. The sort of information that we put on here is these two columns of figures. This one is per 100 grams, which is about 3.5 ounces. And you'll find that that's the same on all products, so you can compare one food with another.
Oh, that's helpful.
And then the other column is the amount of nutrients in one serving. So if you get a bowl of cornflakes, that's what you get. And we give you the amount of fat, the amount of protein, and the amount of carbohydrate, and then the total amount of energy that they provide.
Now, that's always confused me. I don't think I quite understand that.
Well, what it means is that if you were to eat this bowl of cornflakes, the fat and the protein and the carbohydrate which are present in it would be broken down in your body, and energy would be produced from that. And the energy is measured in kilocalories, or calories to you and me.
Actually, it's quite simple once you look at it. You just have to read it carefully.
That's right. Now, we also give you on here the amount of fibre and also the amount of added salt and added sugar. Now, you'll only find those on there where you've got salt and sugar in the ingredients list. So that'll tell you the exact amount that's there.
Which makes it easier to monitor how much salt and sugar you're taking during the day.
That's right, exactly. And then finally, we give you the minerals and vitamins that are present in the product. It tells you how much in a serving. And then up here we explain, just in a short sentence, what the different minerals and vitamins do and why our bodies need them.
Kerry, one thing I did want to ask you about was additives, because I know a lot of people are very concerned about them these days.
That's right, we have had a lot of consumer letters about them and also questions in our consumer kitchens here. Something that we realised there was a concern about two years or so ago now. And ever since then, we've been examining our product range to see if there are any unnecessary additives that we use. And we've been looking in particular at artificial colours in children's products, because that's something which mothers tend to ask us about a lot.
Yes, because that's a really important area, isn't it?
And we found that we have actually been able to reformulate a number of products, and also, particularly with the artificial colours, to replace them with natural ones. Now, whilst additives is an important issue and a number of people are concerned about it, we feel that the most important thing is whether or not you eat a healthy diet overall. And that's why we've really concentrated on providing nutrition information on all our own label products, and also providing guides and leaflets like this on healthy eating.
Now, I've seen this symbol on a number of the products around the store. What exactly does it mean?
Well, we put that on products which are particularly healthy, so that when you're doing your shopping, it doesn't enable people to choose healthy foods.
Oh, I see. So it's a sort of easy, recognisable guide.
That's right, yes.
Woman magazine is committed to keeping its readers on the road to fitness and health. A couple of years ago, Woman designed a healthy living plan for 20 people of all ages from 5 families. It certainly changed their lives, and since then many Woman readers and their families have followed in the footsteps of those first willing guinea pigs.
Well, initially it affected me quite dramatically because we stuck rigidly to it for a period of 3 months. And certainly in the first 3 weeks I lost 1 stone in weight, which was quite surprising.
To start with, we weren't sure whether it was psychological, whether we were really feeling better, but we did feel just completely different. We had a lot more energy, and instead of falling asleep in the evening in front of the television, we were actually talking to each other, and weren't we?
White flour has been banned from the house. It's all wholemeal flour.
Butter we don't use. We use all low cholesterol and sunflower oil, margarines, that type of thing, don't we?
Yeah.
No sweet things at all, do we, really? If we buy tinned fruit, it's always in its own juice and without sugar or syrup. To start with, it was a big sort of initial layout because we were buying lots of wholemeal flour and brown sugar, a lot of lentils and obviously spicy things. But once you've got those, then it's just a case of replenishing them. But the actual weekly shopping doesn't cost as much as it used to, does it?
It doesn't cost any more.
The next family we're going to meet are the Giffords, Frank and Liz, and their 3 children. They live in North London.
Well, the thing that really got us going was worries about Frank's health, because he'd been under an awful lot of pressure at work and this was obviously affecting his health. So I made him go along to the doctor, and he said that although his blood pressure wasn't so high that it was really dangerous, it was getting that way, and it was certainly high enough to try and do something about it.
Yes, and he put me on some medicine and said I should take regular exercise and cut down on fat and salt. He also said it would be good for the whole family to do the same, and then I wouldn't be doing it on my own.
I already had my doubts about what we were eating, but I didn't know what to do about it.
I used to eat all the wrong stuff in the canteen at work. I always loved chips. It was chips with everything. And like most people, I piled the salt on.
And even at home, we used to fry things an awful lot because he loves his crispy fat on bacon or a pork chop. And it's funny because I used to give him more meat and less potatoes because I thought it was better for him. Well, as I said, at first I didn't know where to start. And then a friend told me that she'd heard a talk on nutrition given by someone from Tesco. And she said that at some of the stores, like the one at Brent Park, they have a special kitchen where they advise you on healthy eating. So I went there on a Saturday to do my shopping, and I managed to drag Frank along as well.
Yeah, and I even missed a game of football for that.
Go with Paula. Bye.
Hello, can I help you?
Yes, I hope you can.
Yeah, a friend said that you'd given her some advice on nutrition, and well, we wondered if you could help us with our diets.
I certainly can. Would you like to come in?
Thank you.
Oh, spread out.
Well, I think we all now realise that good health is not just a matter of luck. It's something that we can influence by eating a healthier diet and leading a healthier lifestyle. The biggest problem that we face these days is that most of us tend to eat too much of certain types of foods. So generally, the message we should try to remember is to eat less fat, particularly animal fat, a little less sugar, a little less salt, and more foods containing fibre. So let's have a look at what that means. Fat is a very concentrated source of calories. So if we eat too much fat, it's likely to affect us in 2 ways. Firstly, we're likely to put on weight. And secondly, something which perhaps we might not realise until it's too late, is that it does increase the risk of heart disease. Now, there are 2 main types of fat: saturated fat and polyunsaturated fats. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Well, it's mainly the saturated fats that are linked to the heart disease problem.
Well, which foods contain those fats then?
Well, the foods that contain the most saturated fat are those from animal sources, such as dairy products, cheese, butter, milk, that type of thing, and fatty meat.
Oh, that's all the food I ever eat.
Well, don't get too depressed about it. You can still eat these foods, it's just a question of cutting down slightly. Why not try to mix the fats with more foods containing polyunsaturated fats? Now, these tend to come from vegetable sources, that is, vegetable oils, nuts, and fish. Fish actually contains a high proportion of polyunsaturated fat as well, and that's why we're encouraged to eat more of it.
What about the meat?
Right, well, let's have a look at these two steaks. Which do you think is best?
Well, I like the one with all the fat, but I suppose you're going to say the lean one.
I thought you might say that. I'm sorry, but yes, the lean one is better. Lean red meat like this with no visible fat is fine. Also, chicken is fine, providing that you remove the skin. But obviously, if we are going to remove the fat, we then need to change our cooking methods in order to maintain flavour and succulence. So I'm afraid there's no more frying or rich buttery sauces. Well, not every day anyway. There are a variety of tips and recipes in here if you're interested. So we've looked at the obvious sources of fat in the diet, but look at this group of products here. They all contain fat, what I would call hidden fat, so watch out for them too. Well, again, it's not a question of cutting it out altogether, just cut down. If you're going to buy margarine, look for the label which says high in polyunsaturates. Now, some margarines, particularly the hard block-type cooking fats that you might use, contain as much saturated fat as butter because of the way they're made. So let's go on to sugar now. Now, this small pile of sugar represents what the average person in the UK consumes in 1 year. And that's over 80 pounds. But it's not just what you put in your tea. Sugar comes from a whole variety of different products, some of which you wouldn't expect to contain any sugar at all. For example, tomato soup, tomato ketchup. Some fruit also is canned in syrup, but you can now buy fruit in natural juices, which is nice.
I've had some of that. It's less sickly.
Now, salt is something that perhaps you will have been warned about if you suffer from high blood pressure. I know people tend to think that cutting down on salt will be really difficult, but it's actually surprising how quickly your taste buds adjust. Start by cutting down on the salty snacks that you eat, and then don't add extra salt to your food at the table. You'll have to hide the salt cellar from it.
That's right.
If you add less salt to the food before you cook it also, that's an extra way of making sure. I think you'll be surprised how quickly you do adjust to wanting less salty foods. But there are other factors that affect high blood pressure, such as smoking, drinking a bit too much, and being on the heavy side certainly don't help. Also, if you're in a stressful job, try to remember to take regular exercise, as it will help you to relax. Well, I hope I've given you some help, or at least something to think about anyway. Carey, I've just been explaining a bit about the healthy eating message and why we need to eat less fat, less sugar and less salt.
OK. Well, I've got some good news for you if you'd like to come around this side.
Bye-bye then.
Bye. If you follow Alison's advice and cut down on fat, you'll find you're also going to automatically cut down on calories. But the real message is cut down on fat, but don't cut down on calories, unless you're a bit overweight. So how are you going to do this? Well, the way you do it is to increase the amount of starchy, high-fibre foods and fruit and vegetables that you eat. These also contain protein and minerals and vitamins. The good thing about all of these foods is that they're bulky, which means that you can eat more of them and still get the same number of calories as you would do from a fatty food. Now, if you look at this bowl of mashed potato, that's a normal sort of portion size of mashed potato, isn't it? That's about 200 calories worth. You can see how much that weighs. It's about 8 or 9 ounces. And this is 200 calories worth of butter.
Oh, that's a lot, isn't it?
There. Yep. So you can see the difference and see where you've got to make the changes. If you'd like to come over here, I've got two meals that I've prepared, which I can show you the difference even better. And we've prepared 2 meals here, both with the same ingredients, both with the same number of calories, but one has half as much fat as the other. This one, we've taken a pork chop, which we haven't trimmed at all, it's still got all the fat on it, and we've fried it, served it with chips and peas with a knob of butter on. This one, same size chop, but we just trimmed the fat off and then grilled it to remove even more of the fat. You can have more peas with this one, and then you can also have a large baked potato and a dressing which is sweet corn with yoghurt and seasoning on it. And the sweet corn is also high in fibre, so that's adding extra fibre to it as well. You can have a couple of teaspoons of that, which is quite attractive. And as well as all of that, you can have a slice of wholemeal bread with some low-fat spread on it.
Yeah,
So which would you rather have? The one with the chips, don't tell me.
At the moment.
Now if we go over to the grill pan and have a look at that, you can see this is the grill pan that I grilled the chops in. Now can you see the amount of fat that's in there? And that's a lot better in there than it is inside you.
But doesn't the meat taste different?
Yes, it does, because you taste the meat and not the fat.
Oh, I suppose you're right.
We've got a range of fact sheets here, which you might find useful. These contain all the information that Alison and I have given you during the course of this morning. Take them home and have a read.
Thanks.
I think you'll find them quite useful.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
If you've got any more questions, don't hesitate to pop back in and see us.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Of course, breaking a habit's always hard at first, but once you get into it, well, it's not too bad. And it got us thinking about other things like the kids' teeth. Because so many kids these days seem to have fillings. And we make sure they don't eat as much sugar now. Not £84 worth anyway. And planning the meals was difficult at first. We've tried to take things in stages, because the kids often ate earlier than Frank and me, and they ended up with more or less what they wanted. Well, now I make sure that they're eating better food, at least most of the time. Because it's a problem when they're at school, as they naturally want to eat the same things as their friends. Well, I give them packed lunches, which are healthier than letting them choose for themselves, and I try and put a little treat in, like some wholemeal biscuits. And they certainly eat a lot more fresh fruit and yoghurt, although they didn't like that much at first.
Mum says we mustn't guzzle Cokes and crisps after games. She gave us some of those special crisps, low fat or something. Paula thought they were okay, but I wasn't keen on them. Though I like most of the food she gives us, like she made some biscuits, which were all right.
Oh, Gabby, give it back. I'll tell Mum. See ya.
Since they've stopped munching snacks all the time at school, they've developed better appetites, and I'm sure it'll do them good in the long run. But the easiest place to sort everything out is when I'm doing the shopping. And Tesco's nutrition information does help to get things right. We buy wholemeal bread now and margarine that's high in polyunsaturated fat. And that was one of the most useful things they told us to look out for. And we eat more fish and poultry now, although Frank still loves his meat.
I cycle to work now every day, unless it's really pouring with rain. It gives me more regular exercise, and I seem to relax more when I get home, and to save a lot on petrol. About once a month I play football, and I seem to be a lot fitter for that now. Mind you, hasn't helped me score any goals.
Mum, this is broken.
Oh, never mind, love. Look, I just got to do the potatoes and do the chop. If anything, we seem to spend less on food than we did. And we're eating loads of baked potatoes without the butter and with plenty of vegetables. Well, one thing Frank has done really well with is salt, because I hardly use any at all in cooking now, and he never puts it on his food unless he has a boiled egg in the morning. And now I always trim the fat off meat. I try not to fry food anymore, and he doesn't seem to miss it. And he says he even manages to resist the chips at work, although I'm not too sure about that.
I've lost a few pounds over the last couple of months, even though I've probably eaten more, not less. And the doctor says that my blood pressure's come down, so I'll be able to come off the medicine soon.
I don't know whether it's down to what we're eating, but I do seem to have a lot more energy these days. A lot of places I walk to rather than take the bus. And I'm even thinking of doing an exercise class. Me, of all people.
Can someone come and help me carry things through? Gary? Paula? Come on!
Come on, Gary.
Why should I? I did the washing up last night.
Oh, come on, Gary.
Oh, wait, come on, two. Two.
I'll eat one at a time.
Two, go on.
I'm amazed how much I'm enjoying cooking new kinds of foods. And the response from the Gannets hasn't been too bad either.
How did the match go today?
We won.
Andy scored the deciding try just before the final whistle. We'll never hear the last of it.
I didn't mention it.
You would have given half the chance.
All right, you two, pack it up.
Any more sauce, Mum?
One very good reason for healthy eating is to keep your heart in good working order. In Wales today, a serious attempt is being made to change the lifestyle of 3 million people. It's called Heartbeat Wales, and it's the largest heart disease prevention scheme in the world. From T-shirts to TV programmes, the message is just the same. Don't break your heart. In conjunction with Tesco, Heartbeat Wales have converted 6 heavy goods lorries into mobile fitness units so that the health of the population can be monitored. With me today is Professor John Catford, who's the director of Heartbeat Wales. John, tell me, we hear an awful lot about the incidence of heart disease in Britain today. How serious is it?
Well, heart attacks are our #1 health problem. Every year, about 250,000 people die from heart disease and stroke. And that's equivalent to a jumbo jet crashing every day in Britain. I mean, can you imagine if a jumbo jet ever did crash in Britain and then another one the next day and the day after that? There would be an outcry. But that actually is the scale of the problem. And Wales is doing particularly bad. I mean, who would think that with such wonderful countryside as the South Wales valleys, we would have the worst record for heart disease in the world? 1 in 9 Welshmen won't actually reach their 65th birthday because of a fatal heart attack. And by the age of 75, 1 in 4 men and 1 in 8 women will have died from these problems.
It sounds very serious. Is there anything we can do about it, John?
Well, we know a great deal about the factors leading to this massive epidemic, and we need to tackle those as well as provide excellent medical services for those people that actually have got heart disease. Now, we don't know the full story, but what we do know, we're confident will improve the situation. And we're essentially talking about the way that people live their lives, their lifestyle. If they smoke, what food they eat, what exercise they take are all very important in increasing or decreasing your chances of a heart attack. And so what we're trying to do with Heartbeat Wales is give people the information and the support to lead a healthier lifestyle.
How are we going to make progress in this area?
Well, people don't just lead a lifestyle because of their own free will. They're living in a community, in a society which is encouraging them to do one thing or another thing. Certainly people need information, they need support to change, they need to know the sorts of things that will reduce their risk of a heart attack. But we also need a supporting wider environment from our supermarkets, from the television, from where we work. These are also very important, and that's why, for instance, the Tesco initiative with labelling food is so important, so we actually know what we're eating.
And what's your response to the cynics who say that all this is just a fad?
Well, health isn't a fad. Health is something that everybody values for their children, for their family and for themselves. Health is about living for life, and a healthy lifestyle makes you feel good and look good. People are changing all over Britain. People are giving up smoking. I think something like 8 million people have quit smoking. People are changing their diet and taking up exercise. And they're doing this not only because of the health benefits in the long term, but also because they're getting more out of life. Now, it's important that we start young, but it's never too late to start. There's no doubt that we are beginning to turn the tide against heart disease in Britain, and lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle, will be an important factor in that. And I'm very confident that over the next couple of decades, together we'll be putting the heart back in Britain.
Thank you, John. Looking after yourself properly dramatically reduces the risk of heart disease. Heartbeat Wales is trying to make people aware of this and get them to do something about it. The last couple we're going to visit are Harry and Margaret, who live here in Mountain Ash.
I've always had a thing about my garden. I don't know about it being healthy or anything, but I do know that vegetables taste even better when you've grown them yourself. Meg cooks some delicious meals with things that I grow here.
Harry, your meal's ready. Come on now, love, you don't want it to go cold.
Right, love, come in. Just wash my hands. She makes sure that we both get enough to keep us going, and she started to read a bit about healthy living.
All right, love?
Yep, be there now. Be there. Better late than never, she always says, and I suppose she's right. Lovely outside. Oh, I do love your homemade soup. But I'm not too sure about this bread. Do you know I'd just as soon have some white bread and butter?
Yes, I know you would, but you're not getting it.
Oh, you always were a hard woman, Meg.
It should be good today, Ruth. He's always loved my lamb broth, though it's changed a bit in the past year or so. I boil a neck bone and skim off all the fat the next day. Then I put in all sorts of chopped vegetables, things like parsley, which is good for the digestion and which I never used before. You're not overdoing it, have you?
No, no, we've got all the cabbages in.
Hmm? Oh, you have? Well, I'm going downtown tomorrow. Shall I get them for you?
Could you? If you would,
tomorrow.
because it means I can get on without stopping then.
Since Harry's stomach problem got worse, he has to take lots of fluids. And he has some yogurt with a teaspoon of honey every morning, which helps his digestion. Shall we get this washing up done?
No, leave it. We've got all day. We'll do it when we get back.
All right, love. I'll just go and put my things on.
Go on. Our neighbour Doris, just down the road, lost her husband Brian last year. We take it in turns to cook for each other, and it's worth spending a bit more time cooking for three. It gives her a bit of company, and she's a wonderful cook. Come on, boy. Yeah, come on. There we are. There's a good boy. We're going walkies down the shop. All right, we're going walkies. Are you ready, dear? It's really important not to let yourself go. You've got to keep busy. That's what I always say. You hear about some old folk living on tea and biscuits, and that's a terrible shame. We both try and get around a bit. The dog gives us a fair bit of exercise, though it's more of a question of him taking us for a walk these days than the other way around. We like to go shopping as it gets us out of the house.
We need to watch the cost of our food like so many other people today.
Oh, thanks very much indeed. See you when we get back, boy.
I always try and pick out the most economical products. We enjoy our shopping, and we try and come early in the week before it gets too busy. Oh, hello, Doris.
Hello, Margaret. Hello, Harry.
Lovely. How are you feeling?
Oh, feeling better, thank you.
Take care of yourself, Doris.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you.
See you.
Take care of yourself, Margaret.
What I like is that nowadays the husband and wife can go shopping together. In my day, my father would never have gone inside a shop with Mother. Now I can wheel the trolley round and we can help each other. Oh, Meg, you got my low-fat cheese?
Shall I get this one, look, for a change? With garlic and herbs.
Will you try it?
It's
Sounds
low-fat.
nice,
It's
lovely.
low-fat.
Yeah. Should we have the other? We've always had that. Much more now? We've nearly finished.
It's nice that we meet people at the supermarket. And my son says I'll chat to anybody. I tell you, though, I have to bite my tongue when I see someone at the checkout with a trolley full of fatty, sugary foods.
That'd be £11.30, Margaret.
I just hope we can keep our health. Now we're not eating so much, I try and make sure that what we do eat is good for us. In our younger days, it didn't seem to matter, and we didn't know any different. But food's changed a lot. I'm always on at our Carol to watch what her young family eats. It may be more important for them than for us. Still, you know what they say. You're only as old as you feel.
As Margaret says, it's never too late to start. Well, we're here in the Woman magazine kitchen to take a behind-the-scenes look at the preparation for a healthy eating feature. And to show us how it's done, we're going to talk to Woman's Cookery Editor, Joy Davis. Hello, Joy.
Hello.
Tell me, how do you manage to combine health guidelines with your cookery features?
Well, all the recipes we actually feature in the magazine are low in fat, high in fibre, low in salt and low in sugar. So wherever possible, we'll use polyunsaturated margarines or oils that are high in polyunsaturates like sunflower oil, corn oil and also grapeseed oil.
And what about cooking methods?
Grill, roast on a rack in the oven, poach or steam. Steaming is particularly good for chicken and for fish and also for vegetables. So I've got some over here. This is bamboo steamer, which is a Chinese steamer. where I've got some broccoli and some cauliflower, which can be steamed together because they take the same time to cook. And also another type of steamer, which is a flour steamer, an aluminium one. But you could just as easily use a colander over a pan of boiling water. I mean, it's something that you'd actually have around. We're also very keen on stir frying because it's quick and it's easy, and you use a minimum amount of oil. And also, you can use a very small amount of meat. Here's a piece of steak cut for stir frying, very thin, because it's quick. And also chicken. So you can get away with using 4 or 6 ounces for 4 people because it goes a very long way. One thing you do have to do is the preparation of the vegetables beforehand because it is quick, so you can't be fiddling around in the kitchen. So depending on the type of vegetables, carrots take longer, so they're cut very fine into matchsticks. And Chinese leaves less so, so you can actually cut them a bit thicker and add them at the end of cooking, so they'll only be in for maybe 30 seconds because the vegetables should be crunchy, and that's the good thing about it.
But how do you reduce fat in creamy desserts, for instance?
There's something called quark, which I don't know whether you've heard of, but it's a skim milk soft cheese from Germany. And there's a French equivalent called fromage frais, which, as you can see, is very thick and creamy. We also use natural yoghurt, and there's a natural yoghurt, a Greek yoghurt, which is slightly creamier as well and similar to the fromage frais.
Looking at this dessert, it makes me think that maybe there's an awful lot of sugar involved in it.
Well, no. This I've actually made with quark and natural yoghurt, and we've used dried apricots, which are high in natural sugar, instead of packet sugar, because all the packet sugars, brown, demerara, whatever it may be, are the same as white sugar. It's just the flavour that's different. But if you're using something like dried fruit, you're getting the vitamins and the fibre as well. So I have a crumble here as well, and normally the apples are poached in sugar syrup, but I've actually used orange juice and cooked them with some raisins. So there's no packet sugar.
Now, we've talked about reducing salt in the programme, but how do you stop food being tasteless?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get out of the habit of adding salt at the table, which an awful lot of people do even before they've tasted the food. Plus, if you buy a salt mill and use coarse salt, 3 twists of this is going to be a lot less than a spoonful or pouring straight in. I also love pepper, so I have a pepper mill which I fill with black and white peppercorns, and in this one I put a few coriander seeds too, which again is a spicy alternative. So I like that. And experiment with fresh and dried herbs, fresh preferably if you can get them, or dried oregano or mixed herbs or anything really, but do be careful about seasoning mixes which do have added salt, and stock cubes which are full of salt. I've actually made a rice dish here which combines whole grain and white rice together, and we've cooked it with lemon rind in the water and then added some nuts and some of the cardamom seeds and sprinkled it with fresh chopped parsley. Delicious.
Yeah.
And no salt.
And no
and it
salt.
tastes very good.
Now, can we talk about something that we can actually eat more of? Fibre.
Yes, let me give you an example. I've made a cake here with whole wheat flour, fibre-rich nuts and fruits, and grated carrot, which moistens the cake. Vegetables are a terrific source of fibre. Like the vegetables that we used in the stir-fry, basically you should be eating more of them. But one thing I would like to mention about all the points we've discussed is take it gradually, don't worry about it, don't become paranoid, because food is there to be enjoyed.
And we certainly have a lot of choice. Thanks very much, Joy.
Thank you.
Well, I've certainly learnt a lot from the people I've met in this programme, and I hope you have too. What you need to do is take the first step. Do it today. Set yourself some healthy living rules and stick to them. Cut down on sugar, salt and fat. Eat more fibre and do some regular exercise. Imagine how much you and your family stand to gain. And remember, every effort towards healthier living is worth it. So go on. It's up to you. Take care of yourself.